Start the recording, and let's take a look at King's Row. So yeah, you guys like super duper fall apart on this one for multiple reasons. I'm pretty sure everybody makes at least one misplay.
You're not streaming, by the way.
I'm not streaming, that's right, thank you. Screen 1, go live. There we go. Excuse me, game. I would like my 60 frames per second back because I know you can fucking do it. So if you could figure it out, that'd be lovely. Alright, well, it'll return at some point. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to make it return right now because we're not far into it. It's this one. No, it doesn't like it. Oh, maybe I can't do it anymore.
Turn off. No, I got you. Go to settings in Discord. User settings.
Yep.
Voice and video. Scroll down until you see video codec. And turn off the second one.
Video codec.
H.264 hardware acceleration.
Off. Do I need to restart the stuff?
Probably just restart the stream. Just the stream.
Well, no, it kind of like is good now. What is that? I'll ask later. But yeah, I think the only one I haven't seen make a mistake is Frosty, but mostly because Frosty didn't send me a code to look at. Never, most everybody else sent me King's Row, so I got to see all of their mistake firsthand. So we're gonna be staring at Frosty, waiting for her to make a mistake. Okay, mistake number 1. Tanks pushed into the enemy tanks because they assume that they need to contest the tanks. So there's going to be 2 things that we want to learn here, right? First is going to be that you don't want to be putting your back to enemies that you don't know who they are yet, right? So like they're pushing in. That first attack, you really want to be careful because you don't know if they have Reaper May. You don't know if they have Symmetra McCree. You don't know if they have Widow Farah. Answer?
So would it have been better for them to move to the left where they were pushing, or just engage in a fight immediately?
So the ideal situation, or the ideal kind of maneuver here for most people, is going to be, and I'm going to have to pause at some point, so maybe let me not. Okay. I need to get it to a specific spot. Sorry. I flubbed it there. I flubbed it. Okay, so right here. This is the moment, right? So this is the moment where you have to make a decision because the enemies are actively doing something. So they're going to be trying your defense. So what you want to do is you want to generally mirror them to prevent them. You want to like block them from actually being able to get past this line, which means if they're going to go around statue for that first push, you're going to mirror around statue. Because unless you're consciously playing a composition that is just like, we're just the best brawl composition, like you don't get better brawl compositions than, let's say if you were Ryan Zarya, Reaper May, Lucio Moira. Like you don't get better brawl compositions than that because it's just the most comfortable brawl composition there is right now. And there's some variations, but every variation is less brawly. So unless you have something that it's like, if we smash into them, we're automatically the better team. Like, you can't be just trying your luck to start out the fight. So you really have to look to kind of, like, mirror their rotations and kind of, like, see what they're going to do first. You have to take your time to, like, pause it out. Later on, if you read that you, like, let's say if they have, like, Widow or something like that, you're like, they have less staying power. Like, we can crash into them a little bit better. But you can't just like run into them the first time like this. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, the first thing is you can't be crashing into them. The second thing is you can't be putting your back to DPS like this, because you're just gonna just watch SDT. Just watch him get absolutely swarmed by like little maggots just eating away at him. And there's nothing he could do because he put himself in that position. So
if they were a higher SR, we would have died faster than this.
Yup. So yeah, the first misplay is really the tanks kind of committing into that fight. The second misplay is going to be the supports right here both making different miscalculations. So supports, I said this in your thing, are Lana, are the recovering mechanic for the team, right? So you can, as supports, make up for mistakes that happen. Everybody else's goals are to minimize mistakes so that the supports have less work and then can focus on doing other things. Like, let's say, On is the perfect instance. If your team is making a ton of mistakes, you have to be a heal bot the whole game. But if your team is making very few mistakes and doesn't need a ton of healing, then you can look to do more damage, land more anti-nades, and get more like creative sleeps from different angles and stuff like that. So your goal as a team is to help your supports by minimizing mistakes. As supports, your goal is to recover any mistakes that are made and then continue to have some impact on the game if you can. So here we're going to look at how our supports recover from this really, really big mistake that our tanks make, because it actually was super possible for them to recover from this, right? So you'll notice that our supports are first going to start by splitting into different directions, which when you look at it from an overhead looks kind of all right, but the biggest issue comes with, for you, Lana, is you guard an angel over to the other side. So to start, right, you have to understand that until the enemies come out of spawn, you control the entirety of the map, right? But as soon as they start coming out of spawn, slowly and slowly, they begin to control the map as they like push forward. The space behind them becomes controlled, right? So essentially, what our team does is it sets up a defensive line here, where everything back here is under our control. But as soon as the enemies kind of get into, change the color, yay, this positioning here, everything back here is under their control. So you kind of like jump out of friendly territory to be able to jump into enemy territory, which when STT dies, which I'm not sure, oh, okay, you're just changing targets, that's fine. But when STT dies, now you're going to be rezzing from, and I mean this res is never going to be a good res because there's 3 enemies right on top of it. Does Chloe even have bubble for you if you try to go for this? She doesn't. She has it in 2 seconds, but she's not going to be able to save you if you go for the res right here. But regardless of whether you go for the res, actually, there's like nowhere for you to go. Like, because you put yourself in enemy territory, there's no allies within like adequate line of sight for you to GA to. Because even if you GA to like Chloe or Alexis, you're still going to get body blocked by these tanks that are here. So that's largely going to be like your big mistake, is that you're going to be diving into the enemy territory. Now let's look at it again and look at another mistake. So this is what we talked about at Alexis' thing, where he's healing and then he just stops healing. So the range for Moira's healing is 15 meters. So if he had kind of wedged himself in this gap here, he would have been able to still try to heal the tanks and recover the mistake, but he essentially just stops trying to recover the mistake and starts trying to deal damage. Did I start OBS? Yes, thank fucking God. Okay, so that's kind of Alexis's mistake, is that he doesn't actually go to recover the mistake that the tanks make, and therefore the mistake is exploited and everybody gets punished for it. Jax's mistake here is going to be not following up with kills that he could have easily confirmed. So let's look at Frosty's mistake here, because she didn't click enough heads, I'm sure. But let's see if there's anything egregious that she does that we can kind of just start working with. Okay, so Frosty, your big mistake here is, I would say, just like willy-nilly throwing flash into nothing, and not being able to follow up on it properly that first time. Because actually, for you and Jax, you guys are in similar situations here, where you have the opportunity to like open up this fight, and it's going to be a messy fight, right? The mistake is going to be exploited, but we're going to really be looking at this top right-hand corner here, and looking at their health bars throughout the duration of this fight. So you flash, and you don't actually flash, like you hit people with the flash, but like you don't hit the shot after that, because you flash people who are to the left and to the right of where you throw your flash, and it's almost like you just threw your flash in there to try to like get value without actually knowing like how the value, like what type of value you were going to get, or how to follow up on the value. So throwing resources into a fight is good if you don't know what to do, but that's not the end goal, right? We don't want to just throw resources into the fight with like no real intent behind them besides just hoping they hit. We want to throw them in there with like actual plans. So both this Ryan and this Lucio are super low right now, and those are two pretty big components of this composition. So Zarya is really scary into the late fight. If you let her live too long, she sustains high charge and she does a lot of value. Ryan is going to be the real deterrent for all of your damage. So if you get rid of the Reinhardt, it's a big boon to your team's DPS. McCree exists. Lucio is going to be the mobility of the team. Did I have a full clip when I flashed? We'll see in a second. Hold on. Well, actually, we could probably see right now because it looks like you are about to flash. Yeah, nice. You have 4 to 6. You just missed your shots. And you missed that first shot. Like, that Ryan should have died after you flashed him. And it would have opened up the space for your team to actually be able to kind of, like, concretely, like, focus on one person. Yeah, you could have right-clicked. You could have. The right-clicks are, like, what I would say, honestly, is, Greedy asked me this the other day. He was like, should I be right-clicking or left-clicking? And I was like, you should be right-clicking if you can't hit the left-click. If you can hit the left-click consistently, then the left-click is better. Because actually, if you flash 2 people with the... you can, like, click 2 headshots and kill 2 people. It's been very rarely done before, but, you know, it's been done before. You could also just hit 2 headshots on the same person, which is more damage than flashing and fanning. But if you can't hit that headshot consistently, then we want you to just fan because it's more consistent, it's higher damage. So, yeah, so the Ryan and the Lucio are really low. Lucio's the legs of this composition, so if he's gone, it's really hard for them to move, which means Jax then has the opportunity to outmaneuver them because he just has more mobility than their entire team. Reaper is a big source of damage, but he's only scary to the tanks. And Moira is going to be their only real source of healing and sustain. So if you can get rid of the Rhine, the Lucio, or the Moira early into the fight, you've gotten a big, big pick as is. McCree and Reaper are good. Zarya is really, really good, but like not in this rank. So the DPS's big issue is that they just don't kill enough. Like, they have good opportunities to be able to confirm kills, and they don't. Like, we only confirmed the Rhine there, but we saw that the Lucio was low as well, which could have been a confirmed kill. And then imagine if we pick the Lucio here, and then Jax is able to get the Moira, and it's both of our DPS in a fight against 2 people from there. It's a McCree versus a McCree, and a Zarya versus a Tracer. And that's actually a pretty fair fight, all things considered, and is winnable. Like, we could recontest this where as it stands because we had a messy fight and we did get some kills. But I got clipped. Yeah, it was a messy fight and we probably could have recontested it. But even here, like, any damage that you're doing, the Lucio is just healing it right now. Like, the McCree's low, but he's not going to stay low. You know? So we all make a mistake on this, I would largely say, and some of the mistakes may sound stupid, like for the DPS, it's like, just click them better, but like, that's your whole job as the DPS, like, just click them better, that's your whole job. There's not much more that you can do as most DPS. You could have recontested this, because if STT actually goes out to here, he can get bubble from Chloe and then pin onto point, and then Lana, you could be healing him throughout that. And I talked about in the thing for Mercy, you just, like, the next step is you need to learn how to super jump, Lana. Not the next step, but like one of the big steps is Mercy you're gonna have to take is learning how to super jump. So if he goes in here and you super jump, and he just stalls point with, like, he gets the bubble so he doesn't get instantly burned and you're just healing him from up here, then you actually have the chance of recontesting this. But it's fine that you guys did it because you opt into holding this choke here, which is, honestly, it's not, like, you didn't make a mistake here. This is literally a decision. You make a decision. Now, your ability to reinforce the decision with play, it wasn't as good. Yeah, it wasn't as good. Okay, so you have 5 here. Jax is still on his way back, but he's a Tracer, so he'll be back relatively quickly. So let's just kind of look at this fight as a whole. SDT taking a ton of damage, frontlining, gets hit with a flash, and from there is dead. Like, the second SDT gets hit with this flash, you have to save him or he's dead, because we're going to look at this from kind of like an overhead on him. So armor health, remember, negates small instances of damage. So armor health will be negating 5 from every big instance of damage and cutting every small instance of damage in essentially in half, I'm pretty sure. If not literally in half. So he pins across, gets bubble, good. Reaper's behind him, doesn't matter, still has bubble, still has armor health, still negating damage. Good, 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 good. Gets hit with flash. Now let's look at STT's exact health. It's 132. Now, if anybody in this game is below 150 health, besides Tracer, of course, they are very easily killable. But for somebody with such a large hitbox, it is actually more detrimental than the average character to have 150 health, because it's so easy to hit Reinhardt, especially if he doesn't have a shield up. And you'll see here, like, this other Reinhardt's just going to swing into him, and like I talked about an Alexis thing again, need to commit to healing the Reinhardt. Frosty, you need to be able to punish, in some capacity, the open sight line that the enemies are giving you right here to be able to actively, like, contribute to trying to win this fight. For DPS, largely in the beginning, what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of instances like this, where you have a lot of time where the enemies give you a lot of openings to be able to actually click into their health pools. And as time goes on and the enemies get better, the instances where you will actually be able to click on bodies will become smaller and narrower, meaning your shot accuracy has to be better, because more often than not, you'll be clicking at people who are hardly there, or who are hardly, like, actually visible, you know? So you just need to get better at kind of, like, hitting some of these shots to be able to actually punish this aggression, because this is punishable aggression. This Reaper is in bad positioning because you could technically hit a headshot and kill him, and that's what we want to be able to do in some capacity. Not every time, you know, you want to be able to do it 60% of the time. That's really the goal. You don't want to do it every time. You just want to look to try to up the amount of times that you can punish that positioning. And then your Reinhardt gets picked, so you all have to run away. So we lose 1 because Frosty is a slow character. We lose 2 because Lana doesn't turn around fast enough to GA over to Alexis. And then Alexis makes it out because, honestly, just bad at collapsing on him. And they don't chase this kill right here. Like, he definitely could have died. And then we lose Jax because Jax gets there late. Like, by the time Jax gets there, it's late. And he needs to basically chill. Like, he needs to hide. Tracer's positioning is not in relation to anything but the map. She does not actually care about her team too much in terms of positioning. And she hardly cares about the enemy team's positioning. She really just cares about her positioning in relation to the map. So you need to make sure that as Tracer, you're not always trying to play, like, Frosty needs to be with the team. She needs the team's help. You don't need the team's help. Like, just go hide somewhere on a mini. Doesn't really matter that much. Like, you don't need to get back to the team right there. So our composition is weak against this Reaper on the high ground, which means that we can't do anything about him. And when we get grabbed and he goes in, we can't do anything about the fact that he chooses to go in when it's good for him. Kind of unfortunate. But they do the same thing that happened to us on second point, on third point, where essentially we're not all together as a team. They create an opportunity that we don't actively either try to prevent or recover from, and they're just going to snowball through. So from this point on, really, actually before this, from right here, hold on, I'll show you where. I'll show you where. I'll show you exactly where we lose the whole map. Okay. We have lost the whole map right there. The reason is because these are all free kills. You don't need to use the ultimate to kill any of these. So we're going to just die for free, and the only thing that could overcome this is insane personal ability. So, like, if Genetic was in this situation, he might have been able to overcome it, but at higher levels, when you're matched evenly, when you're matched evenly at all, like, these are free kills, essentially, in a team setting. There's nothing you can do about this. And then if we look at the ult economy, fairly even, right? So there's some opportunity maybe of us being able to pull out the map. But because of our composition, we can't actively do anything about this Reaper. So we can't be aggressive because he puts us in check. So they put us in check before by taking first point and then getting ultimate advantage and positioning advantage. And then they keep us in check by using their positioning. And then we try to counter, but it doesn't matter because they have positional and ultimate advantage. Okay. So we're going to try it again, right? We're going to try to get back out here. And this is another thing I want to talk about. This is something that I've seen us do multiple times, at least for you guys. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Go to the right on King's Row, third point, because these boxes do something for you. This pit does something against you. Right, left side is very, very bad to push out of. You have to push out of right this box side as a team. My throat. Oh no. So yeah, more cleanup kills, right? So they still have positional advantage and ultimate advantage. So now look at how many ultimates you had to use to try to recover from the last fight, because you also not only had to recover for positional advantage, but you also had to recover from them using ultimates, and you still weren't able to do it because, well, positional advantage is really strong. So now they have a ton more ultimates, and essentially what they're going to do is they're just going to start throwing their Qs at you. So there's nothing that you can really do here, because they just absolutely shut you down with positional advantage and Q advantage. And you can't get positional advantage unless you take a large spacing sacrifice in order to hold space further back and, you know, like get people on the high ground and hold corners that are really important to you, or without outplaying the enemies at a high level. So until you can start doing that, losing those first two fights is a larger detriment, I think, than is realized in some capacities. Overwatch is a game where you can snowball. For any of you who've played League of Legends, you know that it's a very snowbally game where the first kill leads to a second kill more often than not, and so on and so forth. That also happens in Overwatch, because ultimate charge is gained by dealing damage or giving healing. So the team that wins the fight is more likely to have more ultimates. So, you know, you're more likely to be able to use the ultimates to win fights because they're so powerful that you can win entire fights with ultimates. So you're able to get an ult out, doesn't matter. They hit high noon, they get your 2 squishies in the back. They're able to absolutely neutralize what you do because they have things just made to counter it, and because they have positional advantage, and because they have ultimate advantage. So, what is the depressing lesson at the end of the day? One, don't feed so hard on first point. If you lose the first fight in hybrid, and it's that drastic of a loss where you lose a bunch of people and then you continue to trickle in, you will lose the rest of the fights after that, because you're not regrouping properly. Like this, it's a little bit off, right? But Jax should have gotten out of that. He shouldn't have been contesting it. You know, we should have Jax. Jax getting out should have just hit small things, but it would have at least allowed you a few more kind of like equal fights. And then two is just knowing how to play a little bit more patient, because you go in too fast right there in that first fight. And I think it really is the downfall of this whole thing in the beginning. It's just not playing patient enough in that first fight. Doesn't let you get an idea for what the enemies are trying to do. Defense is largely adaptive. Okay, so let's go on to the second one. Does anybody have any questions? Is anybody confused by anything I'm going over? Has anybody lost hope at this point?
How I get good?
If you clicky the people, you usually do good.
Mercy?
Yeah, just clicky the people.
Okay. Sounds good.
No, I'll send you once it's done. I'll send you over the stuff. But for you, and it's really gonna come down to decision making and figuring out like what you need to do faster. Because a lot of times where you're kind of just like sitting somewhere, or you're like caught between two situations where you either don't realize that there's a decision to be made, or you just make a decision that's not great because you're not well versed in the situation. So it's going to come through playtime and experience, of course, getting used to the game and all of its different situations. But I think it's also going to come down to like actively thinking, like what went wrong there and what could I have done better. Because especially at this rank, there's almost always something that you specifically could have just done better. It doesn't until you get into like diamond territory. There's almost always something that you could have just done better, because once you get to diamond, there's just some people who it's like they just like click their buttons better, and there's nothing you can do just because at some level there is a a physical cap to the game, right? You can only walk so fast in the game. So, like, right where you are, it's not like you're running into nano blades and scared for your life because you can't do anything against it. Like, you can still do a lot against most of these situations. You just have to get used to it and start figuring out what you can do and start then doing it. I don't know what all this fucking shield hopping is. Shield hopping is for when your shield health is low and you need to rapidly reposition. Well, I don't know what all of this shield hopping is. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna have a seizure. Look at this kid. Look at him go. I want to look at that as a whole, though. Again, let's see it from the overhead. So Reaper's up in a position. So this is their defensive set. They have 4 on point. Their DPS are kind of just split out. One kind of setting up in a trap, and the other one who's going to be hard to get to. Okay, so this is actually going to be pretty fundamental thing that you're going to have to get used to in a team setting. Let me get a water bottle really quick. Holy shit. My throat hurts. It's only been like an hour or two. Whatever. Alright, so what we really want to look at is the coordination here. And the coordination for this set is going to come down specifically to timing your engages so that they happen at the same time. So we're going to be looking at Jax, we're going to be looking at STT, and we're going to be looking at Frosty, right? So this is why communication about plans becomes really important. And this is also another thing where it's like you have to understand how long some things take sometimes. But it's usually pretty, like, you can see your allies through walls. It's not like you have to have an intimate understanding of timing. It just, if you know how long it might take somebody to do something, it does help you. So STT is in the fight, Jax is not. So essentially what's happening is right now, you guys are in a 5v5 because their Reaper's also not doing anything. So he's going to start going out about the same time that Jax is going to start going out. But on the front lines, we're losing. STT has significantly less health than the other Reinhardt. And although there's an anti on the Zarya and the Moira, they are not under pressure right now. So Jax is able to force somebody off the high ground, but at the same time, Reaper is able to actively just kill STT. So what we want to be aware of here is the fact that we could have had a better and easier fight if we just had taken advantage of coordinating better. Maybe given Jax some time to set up and get into position, so that when you push, it's cohesive and at the same time. Because regardless of the fact that the Reapers wind up pushing at the same time, we want to look to be better than the enemy team. So we want to be able to take advantage of that Reaper's passivity and push a 6v5 before, you know, the enemy Reaper gets active and stuff like that. So we really want to make sure that we're communicating for that timing, so that we know that if we have somebody like a flanker who, like, let's say if Frosty was playing Sombra here, she needs time to get into the back line. She doesn't just automatically appear into the back line. She needs to take high ground first. Like, these things take time. And it's not a ton of time. Like, all it takes is for you to go to the back of statue and just chill for 2 seconds sometimes. But you at least need to kind of, like, wait a little bit and give time for everybody to be able to get to the engagement at the same time. Because not everybody's travel time will be the same. STT, you do this wrong. This shield across. because your team doesn't go with you. But 2, you're supposed to shield them across the entire way. So you should be shielding them here so that they can get across this gap. You guys should be actively pushing quickly, like not looking to shoot or land abilities. Your job in this situation is to reposition to start a fight with an advantage, because you're not in a fight right now. This is poke. Poke is just like nice fluff that goes on the top. It's good if you can get picks in the poke, but they have to be an accident. Like if you're getting picks on purpose in a poke, you're either a really, really, really good player, much better than the enemy team, or you're spending too much time poking. So like you guys just need to transition across with STT shielding you. And then right here, you can't shield top STT. You need to shield your team across all the way. Because essentially what could happen is that Hanzo could shoot a log when you drop your shield. Chance. Like, if your team had been pushed a little bit more forward, that Sonic could have just caught Jax, or it could have caught Lana, or anybody, really, and it would have just, like, ended your push, essentially. So you need to actively and solidly shield your team across. You need to be paying attention to, like, timing. So you need to stop here for a second, make sure they get behind your shield, and then start. It's really just a slight hesitation. So you're going to go here, right? You're going to shield, stop, and then go across. And then close it so that people can't actually like deal damage to you as you close in. But everybody else needs to like actively be able to trust that your shield is going to be there. And then once they can trust that your shield is going to be there, people need to move that faster, right? You're not shielding anybody important here. Jax is already out of line of sight. And Chloe isn't going to die to anything if she gets hit. She has a healing ability. You're not shielding anybody important. So everybody winds up getting across either way. You flank. Not sure why Frosty doesn't expect this Reaper to be in here, because he was in here last time. So, okay, she gets out. That's fair. She's on a 1v1. You guys are in a 5v5. And I'm pretty sure you guys win this fight. Unfortunate shatter. Kind of a bad angle, honestly. You should have went a little bit wider to try to hit more people. You should try to maybe lead it a half step so that, you know, you have the chance of hitting more people. If there's more people to the left or to the right, you lean it one way or the other, whatever. Why did my frames just go away for no reason? Anyway. Sorry, guys. This barrage was too far away, honestly. In terms of Chloe, what you're doing, you just need to be a little bit mechanically better. So I'm not really going to comment on anything like that right now, because it's really just a matter of you missing hooks and missing shots. Roadhog really does, at a base level, come down to mechanics and mechanics alone, similar to like Widow. Like, at a base level, you just need to be able to click heads. Until you can do that, there's not a ton I want to comment on when it comes to Roadhog play. Lana, this positioning has become too aggressive in this very moment. You need to be playing a little bit more back towards this car or this corner over here so that you could not get pressured down, because at any moment the Zarya could have turned to you and just finished you off because you're super low health. This Moira seems to be trying to do it now. So you guys aren't actually able to win this fight. Unfortunate. I don't know why my frames are so low. It's hurting me. So we swap around, try to get different looks. Well, at least Chloe does. I think this is good. I think the booping definitely opens up space for the Pharah and stuff like that to get more value, because STT honestly doesn't push enough into the enemies here. He either charges into the enemy backline, or he doesn't like walk forward and swing enough, or walk forward and shield enough. There's a lot of times STT where you'll just like wiggle back and forth in place. We don't want to do that. We want to be very conscious of either just like moving forward or moving backwards with purpose, but not just like wiggling in spot. Especially not in the middle of nowhere. You don't want to be wiggling out in the middle of nowhere. Nice kills by Alexis. Solid 3k by our Reddit Lucio. Nice. Again with Lucio Alexis, because I was looking at it before. Not before, but like on Friday. One of the things that you want to be wary of is just like focusing too much on damage. Because there's a lot of times as Lucio where it's like your Reinhardt needed you to speed them around. But you were... off confirming kills, or, you know, like sitting in a corner after taking a ton of poke damage after getting too aggressive without properly doing some rollout or something like that. Like, you were just super aggressive all of the time. And it was good because it puts pressure on the enemies. But it's bad because it forsakes your team and gets rid of Lucio's biggest kind of, like, asset, which is his speed. Good ult combo, there's nothing you can do against this. Unless Alexis has beat, there's nothing you can do against that combination. You have nothing to stop it. unless, you know, somebody wants to get a big ultimate off as they aggress. No, even still, you just lose to that combo. There's nothing you can do to it against it. Jax needs to get out there. So let's go look at Jax specifically. Yeah, F4. Because I just want to point out the point at which he should be getting out. Okay, he should be getting out. He should be just completely leaving. Nope, no wiggling. Just get out, Jax. Just get out. Just get all the way back to your spawn. The second you wraith out of that dragon and you see the second you wraith out of that grab and you see that dragon coming, your tanks are dead. You're in no man's land. Get out. Nothing you can do there. You ever wonder where my frames go? Because I do. You guys are just getting kind of out ulted again because you're slow to set up and you don't get into positions where you can ult. So, like, for instance, Frosty could be going along this bottom route down here to be able to just get a quick barrage, or she could go up to the high ground to try to drop down from here, and she would just have to sync that up with STT pushing forward. Jax could be doing the same thing. They both have kind of like low-key flanking ults where he could be like TPing into this window, going way around, which is a long flank, and the team needs to be aware of it if he's going to make a long flank like that. But he could also just TP here and then drop down into them. He could come from the side over here. Like I said, you go indoors, downstairs. Sorry, there's a lot of, I'm getting stuck in a lot of stuff. Yeah, so you would come in through this doorway. You see the mega, it looks familiar again. You can go along this right side. You can even go further and get a backline flank over here. And you would just be in the back of their team. You just tell the team that's what you want to do, and then the team either waits for you to say they're ready and pushes in, or tries to create some sort of opportunity for you to push in on, like STT could shatter, and then you could Death Blossom. But you don't need to use both those things together to be able to get value. But yeah, so it looks like you guys might be doing it now, but you could have done it like 2 fights ago. You could have done it actually a fight ago, I would say, more discreetly, because I think the fight before that was like you just capped point. But like going into this fight, you should have been doing this. But this is now good. STT, again, just to reiterate, hope you just saw that right there. You stopped Jax from getting a 4K because you pinned and you pushed the Zarya and the Reinhardt away. And you're going to clean up these kills. It's going to be fine overall. But, like, there's going to be a lot of times where, like, when you get better and play against better people, that Zarya's going to clutch it out and bubble the Rein in that split second. And the Rein's going to get burst healing from the Moira because she's going to coalesce. And it's going to be fucking annoying because people suck and they're good at the game. But, so you need to watch out for those small instances where you could confirm the kill earlier and easier. I don't think here, Lana, because you were saying like, oh, you got off cart because you started healing and stuff like that. I think you could have stayed on cart. Yeah, I think Alexis still had it. Nobody was in critical health, and actually, when you peek away is the moment when you would have wanted to peek forward because STT was like super critical. So like if you had just rode cart for a little bit longer, you would have actually gotten to the corner with cart, been able to heal STT, and then like continue to push cart as well. It would have just been a little bit further ahead. Might have been able to keep him alive. But, yeah. Like I said, just trust one another. Like, if it's Lana's responsibility to be on cart, and she's off cart for some reason, check up on her. See if everything's good. Don't blame her. is a real key thing here that we need to make sure that we're staying on top of. And it's like not looking at one another and saying it's your fault that something went wrong, but asking why did something go wrong from your perspective, because it's going to be a matter of everybody's trying their best, right? It's not like ranked, and that's really where the mentality does come from a lot of times, where people are like, oh, it went wrong because this person did this and this and this. It's because a lot of the times in ranked, people actually aren't trying their hardest, right? But here we can assume everybody is trying their best and everybody has good intentions. So ask them, you know, like, what went wrong? What could we have done better? What did you need help with? Or, you know, like, is there anything that is just like, oh, sometimes the response is just like, I fucking missed my sleep and I suck. And it's like, you keep working at it. But small mentality things like that do go a long way. And do really enable your ability to kind of communicate with one another and work through difficult situations, making sure that you're like asking what's going wrong for another person, because everybody has a different perspective on the game. Tanks are just there too early, because nobody else is there yet, but it winds up okay. Lana, again, just watch getting too close to the fight and stuff like that. I mean, it's at a weird angle, so like you might have needed to be this close if they start pushing forward, but they're not really pushing forward yet, so you actually probably could have given the fight a little bit more space as Ana. And really all that positioning does is it just stops the enemies from being able to pressure you out and kill you, because you have like so little opportunities to protect yourself as Ana. You have to hit skill shots, or, you know, you have to do something crazy. So like right here, for instance, you're on the cart in the fight and the Reaper kills you, and now Frosty and SCT have no healing, and they really kind of need it. Yeah, so you would have been able to actually like heal them back up, give them more time to survive the high noon, give them you know, an ante on the Reaper or something like that. Chloe, you should have just popped Q instantly. Like, you should have just, as soon as they started pushing into you, you should have just popped Q. Nano onto the wrong target. I'm gonna go look at that from your first person perspective really quick, Lana. I want to see what goes on here. Yeah, you should have nano Jax here, because as much as Alexis is critical, he's also a fucking Lucio. So like, if you nano Jax, he actually gets the benefit of not only the damage debuff, like he takes less damage, but also he does more damage, which is really, really threatening to the whole enemy team, with the fact that he has ultimate. But the problem for Lucio is that he doesn't do a ton of damage. Like, he's not a real damagey hero. He can if he hits all his shots, but it's hit or miss depending on who you nano. So like, it's not like he gets a lot of value out of the damage buff. And then the damage debuff, where he takes less damage, he's hard to hit anyway. So like, what are you really nanoing? You're nanoing somebody who's not going to be able to use it to maximum. Meanwhile, Jax is easy to hit, because he has a boxy hitbox and low mobility, and he is a huge source of damage. Like, he would probably clean up this fight with nano as long as he hits Q. The other thing is Jax, you just have to be more aware of kind of like, don't just ult on cart at the end to ult on cart. It is good that you use ults. I always want you guys to use ult, right? I said Chloe, you should have just hit Q, but if Chloe had hit Q, we look at the next step now, right? So it's good that you use ult, but we want to be using your DPS ultimates on enemies that you can actually confirm the kill on. So if Moira has Wraith, you can't confirm the kill on her. If Reaper has Wraith, you can't confirm the kill on him. If McCree has Flash, you can't confirm the kill on him, because you're giving them the ability to deny you, because you're ulting while they have their cooldowns up. So, you know, just be a little bit more aware of not just ulting on cart, but actually ulting to confirm kills late into these contests. So, a little bit messy, a little bit all over the place. Not as bad as my frame rate though, so that's cool. For now, I think I'm just gonna leave you guys with this one because I don't want to give you guys too much to go through. You have your independent stuff, 44 minutes of VOD review, and I want you to get into that ranked grind. I really want you to be focusing on the ranked grind. So I'm gonna leave you guys with this for now. Whenever you see it, whenever you get to it, hopefully before next week, I'm gonna try to get you another 2.2-ish scrim. I think I might be able to do it with the new system that's set up and stuff. So, till next time. But actually, before we go, Lana, do you have any questions since you're the only one here?
Comp?
No, I have to do VOD. All right, bye, guys.